You put in the hours, you prepared the material, but then the critical moment arrives. The stakes are real, and suddenly things feel off. What should be perfectly smooth just stutters and jams. Your speech starts to feel forced. The timing of your delivery is clumsy. Even basic fine motor skills, things you normally execute flawlessly without a thought, degrade into awkward, deliberate motions. The immediate reaction is usually a sharp mix of confusion and shame. It hits hard specifically because this is the exact moment you wanted to be at your absolute best, and instead, you feel completely disconnected from your own abilities. In the vacuum of that failure, most ambitious professionals fall back on a harsh assumption. They tell themselves they just lack mental toughness, or that they simply don't handle pressure well. This breakdown isn't a result of weak willpower. It happens because of the friction of overmanagement. Choking under pressure is rarely a random attack of nerves. It is your conscious mind actively hijacking a process that works best when it is left entirely on autopilot. Overthinking under stress is the real enemy here, not a lack of caring. Think about a skill you've mastered, like driving or typing. When you're in the flow, you don't decide how to move, you just move. But the moment you have to explain that movement to a beginner, you have to slow down and translate that fluid action into a series of conscious steps. This diagram maps that split, the fluid line of mastered execution versus the rigid step-by-step track of conscious control. When high stakes are introduced, pressure acts as a trigger. We feel an overwhelming urge to monitor ourselves to make sure we don't fail. Watch how this heavy monitoring node clamps down, forcibly routing that smooth, automatic flow up into the rigid, conscious track. The mechanical result is immediate. Instead of fluent execution, your brain is now trying to explicitly control and micromanage every single microstep. The data flow severely bottlenecks, slowing down and stuttering under the load. You'd think more effort helps, but in this state, more thinking degrades the performance. By trying to guarantee success, you insert a slow, error-prone supervisor into a fast, reliable system. It is a bitter irony. The intense analytical effort professionals rely on to prepare is the exact mechanism that dismantles their performance. So, what do ambitious people instinctively do when they feel their performance slipping? They try to force it. They brace their bodies physically and attempt to forcefully dial in their focus. They deploy aggressive internal strategies. They start mentally rehearsing micromoves, using intense, demanding self-talk to power through the hesitation. This diagram illustrates why those forced strategies fail. Imagine your cognitive bandwidth as a fixed container. It handles the task data fine, but suddenly you are shoving in massive blocks of self-talk and stress monitoring. The system rapidly overflows exactly when your processing bandwidth is already restricted by stress. You're now splitting your limited bandwidth between the task itself and the exhausting effort of pretending you aren't nervous. Fighting the feeling of pressure creates incredible internal friction, and all that friction effectively ensures your automatic system stays completely locked out. The way out of this isn't the standard advice you usually hear. The goal is not to pretend you are perfectly calm, and you cannot think your way out of an overthinking problem. Your actual objective is to restore the conditions for automaticity. To do that, you have to give the supervisory, over-analytical part of your brain a simple, boring job to keep it distracted. You do this by narrowing your attention to one simple external cue or rhythm. This quiets the internal commentary track and lets your practice take over. This needs to be concrete. Focus entirely on the length of a slow exhale. It could be noticing a specific physical point of contact, like the solid weight of your feet on the floor, or directing your attention strictly to the very next obvious physical action. Human psychology is complex, and the clinical evidence is mixed on whether there is a single universal fix for everyone. But the consistent theme across disciplines is clear. You must get out of your way. The counterintuitive part is that you cannot wait until things go wrong to figure this out. You must choose your specific anchor before the high-stakes moment, so you aren't trying to invent a strategy while you are cognitively compromised. If you take one thing from this, Before your next high-stakes moment, pick one external anchor and decide in advance that you'll return to it the moment you notice yourself narrating or micromanaging. One anchor. No heroics,